I knew that there was going to be danger around the corner. I could just tell by the way that it sounded. So I left my office as quickly as possible, and I headed toward his school. And when I got there, he was not there. So I was a little bit taken aback, a little surprised that he wasn't there. So I said, let me go home and check. And in the meantime, my wife and I, we were trying to reach him over the phone. And I don't talk about this very often, but we were trying to reach him over the phone and couldn't reach him. So of course, trying to keep it all together, I'm taking my time. I'm not busting red lights. I'm not doing the things that you might think I'm doing at that time, but it's like the Lord spoke to me and said, hurry up and get home.
Fire and water me, going down deep, sing, oh, oh, bury me, carry me, oh, oh, far beneath, oh, oh, fire and water me, watching me sing, guarantee free, yeah. Oh, guarantee free, down to the river. Down to the river.
I'm particularly excited about this special episode of Sheepdog and Shepherd because I have followed this man since we lived up in Connecticut, since we had all of our operations up there. It was an honor and a blessing, Sheriff, to meet you a few weeks ago and connect, and it's an even bigger honor to have you on the show to talk about the role that God has played in your life and in law enforcement. So for those of you who have never seen the show before, the show is called Sheepdog and Shepherd. The entire purpose of the show is to have a conversation about how law enforcement, law and order are biblical in nature. And so we share the stories about how God has impacted the law and order space. And so why don't you tell them all who you are?
Sure. My name is Greg. I am a campus pastor of prisons for the Church of 1122, and I lead our first responder ministry there. And I am a co-host of Sheepdog and Shepherd with my buddy Kyle Reyes. And I actually have the honor of being a part-time chaplain for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. So I get the honor of working for Sheriff T.K. Waters and Under Sheriff Sean Coursey here.
So Sheriff, you're up. Let's talk about who you are and a little bit about your backstory and how you got into law enforcement.
So it's pretty easy for me. I'm a military kid. My dad spent 32 years in the United States Army, retired Command Sergeant Major. My life was moving around in order. And it was kind of a natural fit for me. My plan initially was to join the military. Went to the Marine recruiter, made a bunch of plans to do that. Marine recruiter called my house one day when I was working at my job at the Post Exchange and asked for me. And my dad said, don't ever call back if you're from the Marines. No knock on our Marine friends, but my dad's, is a lifetime Army veteran. We sat down, we had a lot of conversation, but, shortly after that, I lost a cousin to murder. Had a profound impact on my life and did a lot of, it changed my direction. And at that point, I decided I wanted to be a policeman. I was 20 years old. As soon as I got old enough, I joined JSO as a corrections officer, and here we are, 33 years later.
Talk to me a little bit about what that murder changed in you that brought you to this decision.
Well, a lot of times when you see that kind of thing, you see it from a distance. You see it from, it's on the news, but you see it from a distance. There's always empathy. You always feel saddened for people that lose loved ones. But when it happens to you, to someone as close, he was a cousin, but he was more like a brother. I mean, he was 9 months my junior. He was younger than I was, just by a little bit. But we grew up together. And he came out to live in Fort Bliss, Texas with us for a bit. And when he came back to Jacksonville is when he was murdered. And when that happened, it just changed my thought process about what I wanted to do. I want to save the world. I'm a young man. When you're young, you think you can charge hell with a squirt gun and win the battle, but you can't. It's not true. It's not factual. But that's what I thought. So I wanted to try to save lives, as many lives as I could. And that's what I've been doing since that day.
I'm going to hand it off to you, Chaplain.
Sheriff, came aboard in June, and I've had an incredible opportunity to serve your agency. And one of the things that I've noticed about your faith is that you are not shy about it. You're very bold with your faith. You don't hold back. And one of the things you've given our chaplaincy unit the opportunity to do is be bold with it as well. You're a very big supporter of your employee wellness.
Yep.
In fact, you've just recently launched a new wellness unit. You've given a creation of a new unit commanded by Commander Glossman is going to be leading that unit. Tell me a little bit about why you believe faith is such a huge part of employee wellness.
I think that listen, when you go through a career like we go through and work and see some of the things that we see, you have to be able to look beyond and know that there's something else there and have something to lean on. I have personal stories, and maybe I'll get to at some point during this conversation, that I would not be sitting here had it not been for a relationship with Jesus Christ at all. The Bible says he's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. He may not always just take away the pain, but he'll walk you through any storm that you're going through.
That's right.
And he'll stay with you the entire time. And I've learned that throughout the years. Saved as a young kid, Vacation Bible School, El Paso, Texas. Pastor George picked me up, took me to Vacation Bible School. There I heard the gospel. And ever since that day, it's been a journey in my life. And it's the most important thing in my life. And I say this, people, we did not a podcast, we did a YouTube video not too long ago. And before we took off to go do what we were going to do, someone at the table said a prayer. And one of the comments were, "Sir, are there any atheists in your department?" I'm sure there are. But the government says we don't establish a religion, and it's not freedom from religion. There's a freedom to practice religion, whatever religion you want to practice. So I'm not going to be ashamed. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to stand by. And I believe the reason that I'm sitting here and can do this job is because he's allowed me to do that. And I'm not going to shy away from who he is and what he's meant to me in my life. Officer wellness and the importance of it, I know that that's a part of it. And listen, we don't, Greg, I know you don't force people into believing what you want to believe. See, the Lord that we serve is not a God of, he's not a tyrant. He allows you the freedom to choose. So having men like you and Corey sitting where you sit and help lead some of this stuff is very, very important to us because, listen, oftentimes men and women are looking for something, may not even know what it is, but you have the opportunity to offer it to them, then they make a choice from that point and move forward.
Sheriff, we've had, I've personally interviewed over 1,000 surviving family members of officers killed in the line of duty, wounded officers. Everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different struggle and a different challenge. But people see a man like you, well-polished, extremely well-spoken, an unbelievably remarkable career, and they think, that dude's got it all together. He's got everything. And I think people lose that there were experiences that happened in your life, in your career, that led you to this point, that have never left you, but that have helped mold you and shape you in your career. Talk to me not about the well-established, incredible guy that you are, but some of the tough moments that you've had, whether it be career, family, life, faith, that you've had to work through.
So there's been several of those. And I was talking to somebody about this. Oftentimes you see people have discussions about, where they grew up and how tough it was and how difficult it was. And maybe all of us didn't have such a tough time growing up, but we're all going to face tough times in our lives. And on August 30th, 2018, I faced the toughest challenge of my entire life, where I got a phone call at about 8:45 in the morning, and it was my son, my youngest son, and he'd gotten some bad news. And I knew that there was going to be danger around the corner. I could just tell by the way that it sounded. So I left my office as quickly as possible, and I headed toward his school. And when I got there, he was not there. So I was a little bit taken aback, a little surprised that he wasn't there. So I said, let me go home and check. And in the meantime, my wife and I, we were trying to reach him over the phone. And I don't talk about this very often, but we were trying to reach him over the phone and couldn't reach him. So of course, trying to keep it all together, I'm taking my time. I'm not busting red lights. I'm not doing the things that you might think I'm doing at that time, but it's like the Lord spoke to me and said, hurry up and get home. So I put the pedal to the metal and I turned the blue lights on in my car and got there and walked upstairs, and I found my own son deceased in his bedroom, gunshot wound to his head. So you look at that And people look at you and they say, oh man, this guy has never faced a problem in his entire life, you know? But there are so many things that go along with something like that when it happens in your family. There's shame, there's disappointment, there's anger, there's a feeling of failure. There's all these different things that rush through your mind and in your heart, and you're wondering, you know, where did I go wrong? Because the entire time, all these years he's in private school, he's a pretty good kid. He's mischievous like everybody else, you know, and he showed there was no signs of anything like that ever happening. But it can happen, and it did happen. And I knew that if I did not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, I don't know where I would have been. I know that he was with me the entire time. I'm not angry with him. Things happen because we live in a world that's full of sin, and things happen, not his fault. And I made a point to make sure that we leaned on him, because there was a lot of concern about my marriage. You know, about 75 to 80% of the time, marriages don't survive something like that. And I didn't want to lose my son and my wife and everything that we built together. And it took a while, you know, it took a while for the recovery. You never forget. I wake up this morning and I think about him. I think about him throughout the day. I think about him before I go to bed at night. It never goes away. But what happens is the good Lord and his wisdom and his mercy and his guiding hand, I'm not saying that for television. I know that because of him, I can sit here today and I can stand up and talk about it happening the way that it happened, and understand that he's with me, and he's taking care of me, and he's always going to take care of me. But these are some of the things that you deal with that people don't know, because I don't announce that to the world. But it's a part of me. It happened the way that it happened. And now the process is, maybe someone can look at this at some point and they see that there is a way to survive and to continue to move forward, even when you deal with something so horrible, such a horrible loss. And that vision and seeing that, it never goes away. And I'm very thankful. And this is how I look at it. I'm very thankful that my wife didn't have to see it. I'm thankful that I saw it and she didn't have to see it. And I could stop her from going up there to see that, because that's not the last vision I wanted her to have of him. And then the Lord gave me, I have 2 other kids, and one's 33 years old, one's 31. And I can't abandon those guys. Those are still my kids. And I have 4 grandkids now. So it's, he's just really been good to us. He's helped me along the way every single day. I got good friends and people that I can always lean on. If I'm feeling like I'm low on a day, I can call up a friend and say, hey man, you know, this is what's going on. And they're always there for me.
How did this impact you as a leader?
It helped me in a lot of ways as a leader. One, to realize that I'm a policeman. I'm a policeman's policeman, 100%. You know, I believe in law and order. I believe in doing it right. I believe if you mess up, you should fess up. You should have to face the consequences, 100%. But at the same time, we have this program that we started in 2016 where we go out and we try to intervene in the lives of young men that we know are walking that risky line, right? They're on their way to either getting put in prison forever or getting murdered or murdering someone else. So looking at that and realizing that that's a possibility for them, it helps me lead the way. And no matter what people may say, you know, I got comments from people on the YouTube thing saying I sound like a liberal. I'm not a liberal. I'm farthest thing from a liberal. But I'm a human being, and I recognize that people struggle and people suffer, and I don't think any parents should bury their kids. I think the natural order of things is for us to be buried by our kids. So I want to do everything I can to kind of stop that. But don't make no mistake about it. You show you don't want to do that, then we'll put you away, and we'll put you away for the rest of your life if we have to.
That's right.
100%.
That's right.
So you and your agency have developed a spectacular reputation for all things law and order in a very positive way. You know, in situations that you may have had to deal with officers over the years, you've always handled things with grace, with honor, with respect, with dignity. But criminals also know that this is not the city for them to hang out in.
Right.
How do you balance that toughness with that compassion and grace at the same time?
So I always refer back to, this is my life my whole life there's a biblical outlook on my life, right? So if I say that the Bible says that a false balance is an abomination to the Lord, I believe in balance, right? I believe in being extremely hard if I have to be, and I believe in reaching out if we can. And I think people probably see that. I think people probably see that I'm a no-nonsense kind of guy. I'm very forward, very honest. I'll tell you what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. But I like to be as transparent and as open as possible. So I will look at a television camera and I will say, if you live in Jacksonville and your desire is to hurt other people in our city, don't, because we're going to put you in prison. We're going to get rid of you. We want you out of our city and out of our communities. At the same time, I will tell you that if we can help you, we'll help you. But my old friend and my predecessor, Mike Williams, said, we'll help you if you let us, but we'll stop you if you make us. No better statement in the world than that.
Let's talk about the chaplaincy program and the impact that that has had. How long has it been around, and what have you seen as the impact of that on your officers?
So the chaplaincy program has been around a long time, but you know, when you're when you're coming up through the ranks, and I think the undersheriff could probably tell you the same thing, you don't pay as close attention to it as you probably should. I think when we're younger, there's a sense of invincibility where you haven't run into the issues, run into all the problems that you run into and all the things that can happen. So you don't really pay a lot of attention to it. Then when you start growing older, and you start moving up and you get into positions, now you're more concerned about the men and women of the agency. Like, I know that I worked in homicide for over 10 years. The undersheriff worked in homicide for 15 years, something like that. And when you work in a place like that, there are things that you deal with mentally, maybe not depression, maybe not things where you're losing a grip on reality, but maybe not being as compassionate as you should be, because you've hardened yourself to a point where you don't want to be vulnerable to the things that are around you, the things that you see, because you can't go and look at everybody and say, "Oh man, that's somebody's poor baby." You do that, it'll drive you nuts. But I can tell you my experience. I started feeling like I had no feelings, right? Can do the job just fine, but I started feeling like I had no feelings. So I asked, Lord, is there something wrong with me? Then about 2006, my mom died. And it reminded me that, yes, this is what people feel when they lose a loved one. Funny as it sings, you know, all things work together for good, and then love the Lord and called to his purpose. Or called to his purpose. I may have messed that up just a bit, but you know what I mean.
You got it.
But when I lose my mother, and that happens, it helped me to realize what other people are seeing and feeling. And that 10 years working there, I wasn't so callous that I couldn't recognize that. And then getting to where we are now, I know that that exists. So now we want to try to work to head that off. And we have been talking for a while about what we wanted to do to try to help our officers long term. You know, if we see them going in a certain direction, if we see someone acting out of character, we point them in a direction to get them some help. Commander Glossman came to me a couple of years back when I was just getting into office, and I think I was the chief of investigations also. And she started talking about this program that it's a passion project of hers. So I said yes when I got into office, and she started working the program, and it's great. She showed us an example in staff just the other day, and that's what helped me solidify the idea or the thought that I want to create a wellness program for our agency, whether it be drinking issues, whether it be divorce issues. We want to recognize those things and point people in the right direction, not only for the agency, but for them, so that their lives are better, so that they can figure out ways to get through that. And hopefully we get to tell them about the Lord at the same time.
Have you seen, have there been any particular experiences with any officers or any community members where you've seen an impact, you've firsthand seen God working in their lives?
A lot of police officers. I won't be specific, but there's been several people that we've had a chance to be in contact, and how the Lord has worked in their lives to change their direction, and them finally realizing that you're not walking around here breathing. Your heart's not beating on its own. You don't wake up in the morning and say, "Heart, please beat." No, there's something guiding that heart to beat, and helping them recognize that. And talking to them, there's been times when I've talked to guys for years about it, and maybe 5 or 6 years later, they come up and say, I finally trusted the Lord. And it's just good. It's good to be able to see that. It's good to see that happen.
What do you want people to know about the agency?
One, we are a very professional agency. We pride ourselves in being, and I use that word the right way, we pride ourselves in being very transparent, very professional, and very service-oriented to make sure that we serve our community the very best that we can. But at the same time, we're not to be trifled with at all. We're not going to hold our police officers back from doing their jobs. We're not going to allow political pressure from anywhere to push us into doing something that's wrong to a police officer for just simply going out and doing a job that a lot of people either cannot do or won't do because they're afraid to do it. It takes a special person to want to go out and deal with everyone else's problems while you still have your own. So we want to make sure they stay supported. We want to make sure they know, and I tell them every single chance that I get, that I don't care how ugly it looks, as long as it's done the right way and professional, the way that it's supposed to be done, I'll stand with you, I'll run through a brick wall with you. If you do it wrong, and you do it wrong intentionally, then we're gonna have to deal with it.
You know, I've been blessed to travel all over the country filming with sheriffs and police chiefs and getting to know many of their officers, their chaplains. And all too many times you'll meet a great sheriff and you'll get, you know, a handful of guys complaining about them on the side. I've had nothing but overwhelmingly positive feedback about how much your officers love you, how much this community loves you. You're in it, man. You're in it with these guys. You see it firsthand. What's been your experience?
Yeah, nothing but positive. From the command staff all the way down to the street and the civilian employees, everything is positive. When the sheriff talks about transparency with the community, he means it. He proves it every day whenever he's got to get in front of the media. He's completely transparent with the community. He's completely honest about the employee wellness. He's doing everything that he can to make sure that the employees are cared for. And just from being on the street, in the ride-alongs that I do, in the roll calls that I'm in, working with the civilian employees, everything that this agency is doing is strictly above and beyond order. It's above and beyond integrity and character. And I think it's proven in what we're seeing in the morale and the character of the employees, because everything that Sheriff Waters is doing is for the betterment, not of just for our community, but for the employees. And everybody that I talk to in the agency is thrilled to work for a sheriff like Sheriff Waters.
A little birdie told me you've got a podcast.
Yeah, so we're going to start one. Don't know when, but we're working on it. But let me say this. Can I add to that? This whole notion of self-made, I don't think there's any such thing. I think there's no way possible for me to be able to be where I am without him first allowing me to sit here. And then the whole thing operates because of the men and women that go out every single day, represent this agency in their city as best that they can. And people like Greg, people like Corey, people like the undersheriff. I'm just a guy that sits here, and the Lord's allowed me to sit here. One, I get to glorify him. Two, I get to get on my knees every night and say, help me to make the right decisions, to do the things that you would have me to do the right way and not fear the faces of men. Wake up in the morning and do the very same thing. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I can't not get here by myself, and this agency can't be what it is because of me. I've known that guy, that undersheriff in there, for over 20 years. I know his temperament. I know his decision making. That's why he was an easy choice. And all my directors, easy choices, because I know them and I know what kind of people they are. And it's because of them that I stay here today.
You know, I've shared this story at a handful of speaking engagements in the past when my family moved from New Jersey up to Massachusetts when I was a teenager. And when I was 15, my best friend in the world, we're having a snowball fight one day, and then the next day I get on the bus and she's not on the bus. And we get into school and our English teacher says to us in first period, Melissa was her name, Melissa passed away overnight, bacterial meningitis. Nobody saw it coming. So then they took the handful of us that had just been hanging out with her and playing with her the day before, having snowball fights, and they rush us off, and we're all getting antibiotics that make you pee red. And so now, as a kid, your best friend just died, you think that you're peeing blood. I mean, it was terrifying. And so I really struggled with it. And I went to Catholic school growing up, and then we were in CCD, and we had this like 432-year-old CCD teacher who was trying to make us feel better. And she said, "Oh, honey, I can tell you why Melissa died." This is great. I'm looking for understanding. It doesn't make any sense to me. I said, "Well, why did she die?" And she said, "Well, because God probably saw that something would happen, like one day she'd be raped and murdered. And so that's why God let her die." That's like all the wrong things to say to a 15, 16-year-old kid, right? And so I struggled for years with that. And it wasn't until years later, we were doing a series for Concerns of Police Survivors called Angels Among Us. And it was officers who became officers because they had a parent who was a cop who was killed in the line of duty. So in this series, I got to meet Sergeant Carla Miller. She was the PIO for the Coral Springs PD during the Parkland massacre. She responded, she was in the door, she was stepping over kids screaming for help while trying to find the shooter. And while she was sharing her story with us, she shared a video clip of her dad rocking her when she was a baby days after she was born. And less than 2 weeks later, her dad was killed in the line of duty. Carla and her sister went on to become police officers because her dad was killed in the line of duty. And over the years, Carla has saved countless lives, people who have gone on to have kids and grandkids now. And so the ripple effect of those lives saved is tremendous. The people who are here on this earth today, because God took her father years before, and in those horrible, painful moments filled with grief and hurt, we often step back and say, "Why, God? Why did you let this happen?" Forgetting that we are in a broken world of sin. And it's not until we step back and we understand from a 100,000-foot overview that God uses sometimes the most horrible things in our lives and the most horrible moments to help us to build the kingdom here. And so, Sheriff, I thank you for coming on and for sharing your story and for sharing your heart with us. And I thank you for all the work that you and your deputies and everybody continue to do every single day, not just for the safety and security of our communities, but for the kingdom as well. So
Thank you.
Appreciate you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Really appreciate
Where can we
it.
find the
Thank
podcast
you.
when it comes out?
Ask Vic.
All right.
He'll be able to tell you where it is. No, joinjso.com. I'm not sure because we're waiting to start that up here pretty soon. So when I get more information, I'll make sure you know.
As soon as it's up, we will help push that everywhere.
Love it.
It'd be an honor to
Looking forward to
amplify
it.
those stories.
Very much looking forward.
Parting thoughts?
Absolutely. So there's a scripture in the Bible where Israel has turned away from God, and God sends word to him. And the first thing he says is, "If my people would humble themselves." And Sheriff, just listening to you and the humility that you speak with, it is a reminder of why you lead so well. It's because of the humility that you have. I think it's just a great reminder of where we are called to lead from a place of humility. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing to the Law Enforcement Today channel on pray.com. Thanks for telling all your friends about our friends over at pray.com. It's an honor to be able to do what Greg often refers to as marketplace ministry. I'm not a pastor, a preacher, a deacon, a priest, anything like that. I'm a, as my pastor would say, a wretched, black-hearted sinner is where we all come from in our background, and we're all looking to serve and glorify God in everything that we do. And so thank you for sharing this video. Thanks for being a part of this, and thanks for continuing to pray for this sheriff and all of his men and women at the agency. So God bless you all, and God bless America.
I'm Michael Litz, founder and president, CEO of Invest USA. Let me thank you, Pray.com, for most importantly being a part of Pray for our first responders, showing your support as Romans 13 dictates that we do, and helping to restore America to values and the principles, which in turn makes America great. America is only great as the goodness and the values and principles that it espouses. You are doing that on Pray.com. We thank you for your support. We thank you for caring for our first responders. God bless you. God bless America. Revival is coming in the days ahead.